Like most students, I was the first member of my family to try tertiary education. Therefore, going to Dundee, in those days there was no mobile phone, there was no internet. So you were in a bubble. You actually lived, ate, slept, partied and worked very hard in that art school's environment and in the surrounding areas. This meant that we developed really deep friendships that have lasted all our lives. Not only with the students, but also great respect for the tutors, who were, superbly supportive of each individual student. That's not to say that there wasn't tension, because in those days, you weren't sure at the end of the year whether you were going to be asked to repeat it or indeed leave. And I remember in my third year, Jack Knox and Dennis Buchan standing behind my easel, looking at the work, mumbling and then going off, and asked me to come along at the end of the third year, and I was convinced I was going to be sent home, only to be given one of the drawing awards. That was just the way the art school worked. We also had incredible characters in the art school, as well as extremely talented tutors. When you think about it, Jack Knox, you've got Jimmy Morrison, you've got Neil Dallas Brown, and you've got the great Alberto Morocco. And yet there was no eliteness there was no disengagement with the students. Students themselves were also characters, but so were some of the lecturers. I remember spending an evening with Grant Clifford and a few other students in a cave full of bats because he wanted us to experience the sensory outcome. I don't think I'll be rushing to do that one again. I was lucky at the end of my fourth year that I got a postgraduate year and spent that with tremendous colleagues. You've got Derek Suter and Joe Smirnicki, who were just so superb technicians and such wonderful human beings, and both are sadly no longer with us. Also with Clark Nicol, who is the most creative person I know. So all of that meant that in the end of my postgraduate year, again being very lucky in getting the Ron Bonus travelling scholarship, I took myself off to Italy, then Greece, then Turkey. And the combination of these experiences, developing your ability to think critically, to solve problems, to work collaboratively, these were generic skills that I certainly didn't have when I entered art school, but certainly had the confidence when leaving art school. Subsequent to that, I went into teaching, and after a couple of years became an assistant principal teacher of art, then a principal teacher a couple of years later, and then moving on to work as an art advisor for Air Division, which was part then of the largest local education authority in Europe, Strathclyde. Following that, I was involved in City of Culture and City of Architecture in subcommittees, and that led me to being seconded into the directorate in Strathclyde, and I think probably I was the only art person ever to get that post. I then moved on to the HMI for 10 years, being the lead inspector for inclusion as well as having a national specialism for art and design. And on leaving that, went back to head up learning communities in a part of a Lanarkshire and South Lanarkshire Council. Then for 11 years worked as an international consultant. I would not have been able to do any of these jobs if I hadn't had the experience that Duncan and Jordanstone gave me. And for that, I'm eternally grateful.